I just want to let you go on your reaction to everything he said that is in your jurisdiction in the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, so Lawrence, because this is so important and because I don't believe it's only about the SAVE Act, let me not put any fine point on this. The President of the United States lied to the American public today. It was a bald-faced, 180-degree, obviously provable lie. Why do I say that? I have reviewed all of the intelligence that the president supposedly declassified, and there is absolutely nothing in that intelligence which that substantiates what he was saying. That Venezuela was doing this, that Russia and China was doing this. The conclusion of the intelligence community under Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, his guy who's at CIA right now, was that there was no meddling. You can look at it. This is a public report. There was no meddling in the meddling meaning interference, no screwing around with vote totals, with voter lists, with machines, etc. Yes, Russia wanted to re-elect Donald Trump. That is in there, too. And yes, Iran didn't want Donald Trump to win. And so they put out propaganda. They put out misinformation. But there is nothing in the record to suggest that anything that the president said tonight was true. And the reason I'm animated about this, by the way, for anybody out there who thinks that this is an MS Now, Lawrence O'Donnell Democrat talking, I want you to go to whitehouse.gov and I want you to open up the section on China. I've reviewed every single one of those documents, but you can't do that. And the reason you can't do that, and do it right now, and you will see that every single one of those China documents is almost entirely redacted. It is black line after black line after black. You can't read anything. There's individual words. There's maybe 20 words in 30 documents. By the way, if those documents did anything to prove the president's case, do you think they'd be redacted? No. You would have more than 12 words. Look at the Venezuela report. Please go to whitehouse.gov right now and look at the Venezuela report. And what you will see is an old report that says, hey, Maduro and Chavez before him, they wanted to influence, here's the key word, Venezuela elections.
Right.
But the president of the United States says, look, Venezuela wanted to influence elections. And so what the president did tonight was lie. And the issue I'm going to take with you, Lawrence, is that, yes, maybe it's partly about the SAVE Act, which is a ridiculous solution to a problem that does not exist. Foreigners do not vote in U.S. elections. That's the facts. But what worries me, and the reason you hear some emotion and some passion right now, is because here's the scenario. Election day is going poorly. Jon Ossoff has been clearly reelected. In Michigan, a Democratic senator has. So the House of Representatives is about to change hands to a Democratic majority and maybe even the Senate. And what do you think happens? I know what happens because I was stuck in the chamber on January 6, 2021, when a mob of thousands of people motivated by the president tried to stop the transfer of power. So when Donald Trump sees that those are the results, which are likely, he's going to say, remember in July when I told you that the Venezuelans and the Chinese, that's exactly what happened. So what we're talking about here is not about the SAVE Act, which is an abomination, but it is about setting the stage for Donald Trump to reject the results of the upcoming election. And every American citizen, and I know it's hard to reach some of the president's most closest acolytes, because I work with 220 of them in the United States House of Representatives. That's the Republican conference. But this is a moment for the American people to say, what is going on here? Look at whitehouse.gov, look at the China section, and look at document after document after document, which is nothing but black lines of redaction. That tells the story.
I believe you and the New York Times and other members of Congress are going to completely dismantle, as you're doing right now, and I want to encourage you to keep doing it, these documents that he's talking about. But take me to this other point. Take me to that election. Now we're after the election. In the scenario you just came up with, we're counting votes in Georgia, and you said Donald Trump will reject the election. And do what?
Here's what happens. Senator Ossoff, who you just had on tape there, has clearly won.
Yeah.
We know how the president feels about Georgia. You ran the clip. When he lost Georgia, did he concede? No. He called up Brad Raffensperger, Republican Secretary of State, find me 11,000 votes. Clearly corrupt. No one can look at that and say that's anything other than criminal, but also corrupt. Right. So when Jon Ossoff wins, this is just one example. And remember, there's a Senate race in Michigan. There's a Senate race in North Carolina. Donald Trump looks at that and he says, my people in Venezuela, because remember, Donald Trump and Marco Rubio are running Venezuela, have found secret intelligence that shows that in Caracas, Maduro's cousin manipulated voting machines in Georgia. This is how this happens. This is how American democracy goes away. Now, a lot of people know me. I've been in this position for some period of time. I'm not an alarmist. In fact, I get a lot of guff for being a little overly optimistic and overly calm. But understand what happened tonight. The president was setting the context. He was setting the basis for him to turn around at midnight on Election Day and say, I warned you. I warned you back in July that the Chinese were doing XYZ and the Venezuelans were doing XYZ and all this terrible stuff. It happened tonight. I am deploying federal officers from the Department of Homeland Security to 7 states. They will be seizing ballot boxes in those states because we know that lots of undocumented aliens voted in those things. So we are seizing ballot boxes. Now, Lawrence O'Donnell, what happens when all of a sudden we've lost the chain of custody of 70 ballot boxes in critical? That is the moment in which American democracy dies. Make no mistake. What happened tonight?
What's the defense against that?
The defense against that is what I'm trying to do tonight, which is that the American people need to understand, as much as you may love Donald Trump, as much as you may hate the Democrats, there is something that we care about more than our party affiliation, and that is the preservation of our democracy. And part of the energy you're hearing from me tonight is the fact that I was one of the last people out of the chamber of the House of Representatives on January 6, 2021. I saw our democracy come this close to ending. And the energy you're hearing from me tonight is that I see the path. And this is the moment for every American to go to whitehouse.gov, as the president asked you to do, to look at the China section, to read the report. By the way, John Radcliffe, old friend of mine, runs the CIA right now, right? Old friend of mine, current friend of mine. Please read his statement. Read his statement on Twitter. It says, we provided documents. Every American should look at those documents. Nowhere in John Radcliffe, the president's guy running the CIA, in his statement does it say, and I agree with everything the president said tonight. You know why it doesn't say that? Because he doesn't.
Jim Himes, invaluable to have you here as our leadoff guest covering this tonight. And please come back. There's going to be more on this over the coming days and as we get to November, because your warning is the most important thing that can be said about what was going on tonight. Thank you very much.